So just like Bruno introduced me, my name is Marcin. I'm a PhD candidate in the Institute of Enterprise at Warsaw School of Economics in Warsaw, Poland. At the same time, doing my scholarship right now at the Pontifical University of St. Thomas in Rome, Dominican University, where we try to relate somehow social sciences, especially business ethics, with Catholic social teaching. Because at the same time, apart from my academic career, I also work for numerous NGOs in Poland and in Europe. For example, for my own foundation, which is Projekt.pl, I will tell a few words about that a little bit later. For Caritas Laudato Si, which is an environmental project of Caritas in Poland. For Caritas Europa as well, we actually work on the social economy action plan that was presented, but from the Caritas Europa perspective, we just consult on it. I'm also a member of the Economy of Francesco. I'm a coordinator of Polish hub of this project, established and directed in Italy. So during this short presentation, I will first present some things that we do in the Economy of Francesco in the Caritas Laudato Si, and then in part two, I will actually present you some results of our social researches in the Projekt.pl Foundation in Poland and Warsaw School of Economics. So really briefly, the Economy of Francesco that was not yet presented, but I'm pretty sure that will be presented, I think on Saturday, is a large worldwide project available and present in numerous countries. I'm aware that in Croatia it's deeply present. That's great. In Poland, unfortunately, yet we still have only about 40 people or something that are working with us. We tried doing our best, but still we lack physical presence, so trying to develop. But our main project till now was to gather all the present initiatives worldwide in the Economy of Francesco. So here you can find 6 of them that are most valid and deeply connected with the Economy of Francesco, which is the Farm of Francesco, 2 demo farms, one in Nigeria, one in Brazil, that are trying to include in the agriculture sector the regenerative agriculture model. Second one, also directed by Mateusz Ciasnocha, who is a Polish member of the Economy of Francesco, is European Carbon Farmers. They deal with promotion of coal farming and the development of agricultural carbon payment mechanisms in Poland. So in short, companies that do harm the environment may offset the amount that they harm the environment to pay to the to farmers that want to do this regenerative agriculture, because it's obviously costful, they need money, so companies may offset their harm and pay the farmers to lower the CO2 production. Some other projects like Packard School in Zambian schools in the countryside, inclusive mapping, that will be a platform application for creating relations instead of divisions. So trying to include within the map some skills, knowledge, and experience of older people. How could they be used for youth? The Profit Podcast is a podcast that I'm actually running with some friends, and we invite some people to show, especially to the young people in the age of 18 up to 21 that are completely lost in the world right now. I have a younger brother that is 20 years old, so I can perfectly understand what is net youth. So they are neither employed nor in education. They have some problems with finding their own path. That's why we try to show some inspiring examples how not to be only a part of this awful capitalistic machine, but to create something that has any purpose. But I'm not against capitalism. I'm actually within capitalism, that you will see later, but some other form. And Casa di Francesco, which is very interesting and modern project that is kind of social economy hub. And some people dealing with social economy gather in one place, especially in Italy, as there are some places in Italy, and I think in Brazil right now. They just gather, try to create, facilitate social entrepreneurship there. But I actually spend more time working for Caritas in the environmental project called Caritas Laudato Si. So our goal is to enhance and facilitate social economy for the common house and purposeful jobs. For the last 4 years, we've created more than 350 local projects promoting integral ecology in the field. So Caritas Laudato Si, because of the encyclical by Pope Francis Laudato Si. So we're trying to apply this quite general and not very practical encyclical into practice. So we created all these projects with the finances of Polish public institutions. So we had like 10 million zloty or something like that for these small projects on the countryside and in the small towns of Poland to apply their integral ecology. We created some expert studies about existing economic model, biodiversity, food and water wastage, climate changes and air pollution. A few conferences, debates, workshops. We basically focus especially on our next purpose, and our next purpose is for the next project that will start in November this year, is to create 5 or 6 integral ecology centers in small towns in Poland, because that's actually too easy to promote integral ecology in Warsaw, Poznań, or Kraków, which are big cities, but it's actually, it used to be impossible to do it anywhere else outside of all these metropolis. That's why we do it usually there, and we want to create these integral ecology centers that could be also social economy hubs. So they could deal with some economic local problems with the usage of social economy tools. For example, one of our projects is creating a biogas power plants in Western Poland. So first, green ecology, and second, even more interesting and important, economic democracy, because it is not, there is no big part that will govern it, but it's for and led by the people that will use this energy. And other of our projects that is about to be established also in Western Poland is to shorten supply chains, especially in agriculture sector. So we don't want to use import especially carrots, because we have like lots of carrots, but at the same time we import it either from Russia, so especially now we don't want to do it anymore, or even from China and so on. So we want to shorten the supply chains so that it would be first profitable, because one extremely interesting Italian from southern Italy told us when we visited Calabria, which is a very poor region of Italy. One important phrase that was the most important phrase for the whole week that we spent there, that first of all, ethics has to be efficient. So it cannot be applied until it's efficient for the people that deal with it. That's why we want to use the tools that we already know, because we deal with social economy, for agriculture sector that we are actually experts in. And at the same time, we also promote, or actually not dispromote, but try to fight with consumerism. In Poland, we've launched anti-consumerism campaign in February this year, created some spots in both internet and all the Polish countrywide television stations, with some TV stars and so on, trying to explain people that they do not have to follow the American example and don't have to buy especially clothes every month, actually. So we both try to explain that through the campaign, and at the same time we established already more than 100 so-called podzielnik, which could be translated to English as a place where we can share something with other people. So we just find some people in small towns and on the countryside in Poland. We contact them, we give them 10,000 zloty to build, we call it in Polish szafa, which is wardrobe, but it's actually something bigger. So it's a place where people can come, leave the things that they do not need, or other people can come, they can just exchange, not only with clothes, but with books, all the other stuff. So it has already started happening in Poland. So that's against consumerism, trying to create a gift culture. And having said that, let me go to the project that is absorbing most of my time, which is social researching within the Projekt.pl Foundation. So we are a think tank constituted by social leaders and entrepreneurs in Poland that are attracted to social relations. Our ambition is to build a whole society of citizens responsible for their habitat in accordance with the Catholic social teaching. So our activities focus on two pillars, which are responsibility of entrepreneurs over the state, employees, social community, and environment. So actually responsibility in its very essence, and the role of family and all the interpersonal relations in the economic system. That's why we research especially the social capital among Polish entrepreneurs, because we find individualism and liberalism to be the main obstacles of sustainable development, and that is why we believe in basic true capitalism on relations. So it's actually the thing that we already mentioned in the talk with Christian, that there is a Professor Stefano Zamani that has been writing a lot about economia del bene comune, but it's something a bit different. But at the same time, what these Italians trying to do is to transform capitalism, not trying to abandon it, because on the scale that Christian actually showed today, we are working for the how was that called, the not the capitalist, but the next one was social market economy. That's actually the thing that is written in the 13th point of Polish Constitution. So that's actually what we are trying to do in Poland, because as As you may know, because in Croatia had the same story as Poland. We had lots of years of communism. Right after, we had a wild capitalism in the 90s. So all these, there was such a huge change that we just transformed into Wild West of capitalism, which was not intended actually to be the true capitalism. So on the paradigm level, we are actually working for within the manner of ordoliberalism. So actually, Eucken and all these guys from Germany after Second World War were establishing. So yeah, trying to make Polish version of capitalism more relations-based, having in mind especially family, that is still considered to be the most important social unit, which is in 2020 it was still 91% of people believing that it's the highest value in their world, family. And that was not in Poland, that was the worldwide social research. That's why our first research focused on so-called family responsive solutions. The solutions that capitalistic companies can introduce within themselves, so that to create an environment within their companies to be more family as an institution, family friendly. So there were, we identified more than 20 of such things, just like company kindergartens, possibility of more days off for children, all these possible facilities, enhancing quality relations in the families of employees. So we researched that in Poland, and it turned out that the most common solutions used in companies are protection of written protection of employees against overtime, so that they would not have overtime hours in their companies. Second would be additional paternity leave, which is still not very common even in the European Union. And third is possibility of part-time employment while maintaining full-time working conditions, because as you know, there is more and more pressure on flexibility within companies, but at the same time, if you are employed either full-time but using not a job contract but all the other stuff, or part-time, you most usually lose all the possible benefits. But at the same time, these three are most common solutions, but at the same time they are not even applied in a half of companies. So actually it's something new, not very common, and the average of applying such solutions was about 22-25% companies in Poland. So that's not very common. And at the same time, it turned out that the surveyed companies do not invest significant resources in family-oriented solutions. In almost 85% of companies, a maximum of 3% of the annual budget is allocated for this purpose. And in almost half of the companies, no resources are allocated to family-responsive activities. And over 70% of companies do not communicate externally the use of family-friendly solutions in any way, even if they do apply it. So we focus on CSR and ESG, but at the same time having these corporate social responsibility and this ESG, which is environment, society, governance. So society, we do not think about the basic thing that if they employ their employees, they are also securing their families. Another form of responsibility for the families of workers is to respond and help in crisis situations like illness, deterioration in financial situation. So actually there is a so-called protective social capital in companies, so only to answer the problems that occur, not to be proactive. But at the same time, employers describe loyal and trustworthy employees as those who take an interest in company's affairs, show initiative and are proactive and have proven themselves in various situations. So we as entrepreneurs do not act proactively, we are not proactive, but at the same time we want our employees to be proactive, and most interestingly, at the same time we do not create an environment that would enable our employees to be proactive, because there are no solutions for possibility of including employees' initiative into governing the company. And as an entrepreneur's main responsibility for the state, respondents indicated paying taxes and more broadly running a business. So by providing jobs. So they think that their responsibility for the state is limited only to paying taxes and obeying the law. So actually the things that they are still obliged to do. But at the same time, to sum it up, the social capital of entrepreneurs seem to share the characteristics of the social capital of the general public. So it is characterized by relatively high informal capital, so creating bonds with our close relatives and friends, and relatively low associational capital, so we very rarely act together for the common good. And our last research that is actually under construction at the very moment, so we do not have yet all the results, but the first results are that among Polish entrepreneurs, the purpose of the business is, the first purpose is willingness of creating material conditions that will enable them as entrepreneurs and their families to survive, and all the others, for example, the third one is willingness to get money, and all the other things that are somehow related to the entrepreneurial ethos, so-called, just like changing the world for better, or self-development, willingness of creating something own and valuable, are less popular. But at the same time, it's still almost half of Polish entrepreneurs, so it's still quite okay. And what do entrepreneurs feel responsible about? It's when we call about responsibility of for employees. So they feel responsible for the quality of their products, for the satisfaction of their customers' needs, and obeying the laws. So actually all the general things that material company does on the everyday basis, but at the same time they do not feel that responsible, for example, for the very people that they employ and work with, so employees. So they feel more responsible for delivering a product to the market than for securing their own employees. And when we already talk about responsibility for employees, the entrepreneurs feel responsible for securing the place of work and paying the remuneration. So actually two things that they are still obliged to do. And when we say about possibility of work-life balance or good atmosphere in the company, or enabling employees to spend quality time with the family, it's way farther. But at the same time, we cannot say that employers do not care for employees, because they agree, most of them, as you can see, agree that success of the company is a result of hard work of their employees. So they see that there are some people that work for them. So they see that there are these people. As we said previously, they want their employees to be proactive, but at the same time, less than 10% of employers create some solutions for enabling this proactivity. So, for example, the stock options for employees, or any boxes, or any actually tools that would enable employees to give their opinions about governing the company. So the main thing that we would like to change in Polish capitalism, because actually we deal with first family, second social capital, and third Polish version of capitalism, are basing it more on relations, which would be the main source of both social and economic activity would be trust that would lead to responsibility, which would have tools that would be compliant with economic democracy. So not only creating entrepreneurship, so huge Western corporations doing their business in Poland, neither doing big businesses in Poland and only employing more and more people in the plants. We want all the employees to be somehow proactive, to have a possibility of action. Because as Catholic social teaching states, the first thing, actually some of their rules are solidarity, subsidiarity, and actually this deals with proactivity. So we should all feel responsibility over the fruits of our action. And that would be all for that. I will be happy to follow with the discussion.